and all of that. What about the child? What are the things you've seen in terms of the results on the part of the child?
You mean the consequences of the act on the child?
On the child.
Okay. So it ranges from different. There's obviously the medical impact. Sometimes the children contract STIs, STDs, HIV. A child that used to be a high flyer all of a sudden is withdrawn because of the impact, and most times they've not received proper psychosocial support. It's not enough for a child to receive medical care. The child needs to heal, and on the way to healing, the child needs to receive proper psychosocial support. So if we've noticed that a child has not received psychosocial support, that child is traumatized. That child is not whole, basically. And then recently we had a case of the husband of a 30-year-old woman called and said that his wife was defiled repeatedly by her uncle when she was 15, and they have 2 children now. But the woman she's not together. That every time she wants to, it's very difficult, and she's withdrawn. She can't communicate and all of that. So it's impacting her relationship.
Even 15 years after?
15, because she didn't receive proper psychosocial support, under the guise that nobody would believe her, and people will blame her and all of that. So aside from the medical impact, there's also the fact that you've taken that child's free will, that child's consent, that child's right to say no or yes. Well, the child cannot even say yes. The child cannot consent to sexual activity. So it's a lot of, there are a lot of consequences. And can I just add to that question? At DI's Reality, we wanted to know why perpetrators perpetrate these acts. So we were privileged to engage, we entered into a partnership with the prisons, and we engaged inmates, convicted perpetrators, sex perpetrators. And out of over 140 we sampled, we found out that 80.5% said that they had been abused as children. So they had started to, it was the abuser trend. So they had been abused and they started to abuse. And then of course they had become sexually active around like 14. So, and obviously, there's been a lot of emphasis on the girl child. But we forget that it's boys that most times grow up to perpetrate these acts. So it obviously reformed our sensitization and awareness. We need to also engage boys, help them to value healthy relationships, and help them to know that it's not normal for somebody to sexually assault. You as well should speak up.
Now let's talk more about these perpetrators, because you mentioned, the very, and for me, the more repulsive is the fact that even a father, we've heard cases of fathers, abusing their own children. And so you talk about uncles, you talk about neighbors, you talk about religious leaders, you talk about coaches, teachers. When this group of people, how can we protect the children from people who ordinarily should be their protector?
First and foremost, we have to start with the children. What we are doing right now is educating children. We have a lot of IEC materials, giving it to them, talking to children in school, teaching them about their bodies and the right they have over their bodies.
From what age?
From as soon as they can comprehend. You use language that they can understand, from perhaps 2 years. So you use language and pictorials that they can understand what control they have over their bodies, what rights they have over their bodies. We also have started educating parents on the vices. Recently we engaged men of the military, the Nigerian military, in conversation, telling them things they need to know about child abuse. And for me it was interesting, because a lot of them started to talk. The level of ignorance when it comes to the issue of child abuse, a lot of people don't know what constitutes abuse in the first instance. Okay, and they also don't know the different agencies they can go to report, because a lot of abuse that happens within the communities are undisclosed. They try to suppress information because they don't want to stigmatize the children, firstly, and of course they don't want to bring the force or the military or their organization to disrepute. So now it was an eye-opener for them, and of course they started coming up. So we need to educate people on what to do, how to identify potential abusers. We need to educate children.
Let's do it, because we are doing it right now. Let's start from what constitutes abuse.
Any form of behavior that brings the child down, because I will be specific about children. I work with children.
Okay, can you just hold your thought? We'll come back to continue from that point.
Okay.
What constitutes abuse. We'll be back shortly, don't go away.
Okay, welcome back. You were going to talk about some of those things that constitutes abuse for children.
Yeah, there are different kinds of abuse when it comes to children. We have physical abuse, when you kick, beat, hit, a child in different ways. There is emotional abuse, when you call your child all kinds of names, derogatory, that affects the child's self-esteem in the long run. And there's sexual abuse,
So
which
that's
we
one
are
we're
discussing,
interested in
yes,
right now.
and then we have neglect.
So for sexual abuse, what are those things that constitute, an abuse for a child?
For a child, when it comes to sexual defilement, it doesn't necessarily have to be penetration. If you fondle a child, expose a child to pornography, if you use anything to stimulate a child sexually, it constitutes sexual abuse. It doesn't necessarily have to be penetration. Oral sex with a child, exposing a child to pornography also constitutes abuse, because it changes the perception of the child, makes the child to grow up, sooner and quicker than should happen.
Okay.
And I also want to say something about what Lola was saying about the abusers, growing up to be potential abusers. It's a fact. It's been proven. There's somebody, an activist. I will refrain from mentioning his name. He speaks from personal experience all the time when he has the opportunity to, and he says he found out that he became an abuser at some point in his life, because he had been abused when he was very young, and it took intervention for him to be able to change his paradigm. Now, the thing is, for most children who are abused at an early age, they live within a prison inside of them, and the healing process almost never happens unless there is a deliberate attempt to help them through the process, through psychosocial support, family support, and whatever professional help they can get.
Okay. Lola, before we're winding down now, so let me just read this out. He responded. He's talking about the female children. But see his comment. John Oladokun says, well, I asked the question, what causes it? And he says, parental carelessness. There's government at all levels not implementing the Child Law Act. Then he says, parents' negligence, especially women not taking into consideration the type of clothes worn by their children. Now, that might add and all of that, but what should be done going forward on both sides? Yes. Government, parents, teachers, and relatives.
I think those are all the key stakeholders. So government has created the enabling environment. We have the laws. Recently, His Excellency ratified the Safeguarding and Child Protection Policy that basically states measures that child-centered institutions have to adopt to ensure that children are safe in their premises, and the process to respond to disclosures of abuse. So what we're doing now is implementing. So aside from the laws, we're also doing policies to guide this, and then we're aggressively prosecuting these cases. The Attorney General is the one prosecuting at the High Court, so we have the political will. As regards parents, we need to engage parents, and we're doing that through PTAs, parents are listening to us, watching us here, we need to, as Mr. Debabo said, parents even need to know what amounts to child abuse and how to detect signs.
Please tell us some of the signs quickly.
All right. So if for sexual abuse, for instance, you notice that the child is very, what's it called? Withdrawn if it has happened, and then the child is very sensitive to this, to
the body organs.
To the body organs, yes, and sometimes the child is itching. Sometimes the child contracts an STI or STD. Obviously, when the child is pregnant, you know that something has happened. So it's not enough for you to detect signs. Then you know the steps to take to report. So we're engaging parents in that token. Teachers also, we're engaging them as, in Lagos State, we have what we call mandated reporters. Anybody that works with children is a mandated reporter. If you see something, you say it. It's not good enough for you to look and turn away. No. You have a duty to report, and failure to report attracts both civil and criminal liability.
Okay, I'd like to, Adiola, quickly as we close now.
Okay.
We see children hawking, and I've heard that is part of some of the factors that expose them to abuse. What advice do you have also for parents in terms of what some people say, as small as a child, 2 years old, you shouldn't undress, for instance, a woman or a man before them? What advice do you have to give?
Okay, for children, girls hawking, my advice to the parent is, number one, the mistake has come from the parents because they have more than they can cater for. And the government is not helping issue, especially in the north. I was brought up and grown up in the north. So you can have child as many as you can. So the hawkers, even in Lagos, it is even good. In the north, they turn to beg as well. The girls, we can be seen them on the street. So my own advice to parents is that they should continue to educate their children of the implication of that. If they are hawking, they should go for their hawkings. So any men or boys that want to induce them, they should restrain themselves from that. So that's number one. Number two is that mode of dressing add more to it, because you see some hawkers, the way they will dress young girls.
That's for
the way they will dress hawking, going about, and they come out from a parent's house and they see them, but they don't mind that one. They just continue. They should go and make the money and come.
Okay. Okay.
So that one too can
It's about everybody, taking action,
yes.
And parents doing their bit, government doing their part,
Yes.
and law enforcement making sure that perpetrators don't go unpunished. Thank you all for coming on this morning. The head of Child Protection Unit, Lagos State Ministry of Youth and Social Development, Mrs. Modukwe Ola Sahid Adebambo. Also, Alhaji Sulaiman Adiola, he's a volunteer member, Community Women's Rights Foundation. And of course, we have the coordinator, Lagos State Domestic and Sexual Violence Response Team, Titilola Vivo Adeniyi. Thank you all for coming.
Yes, thank you.
And Sunrise will take a break. To stay with us on the program.